With all the new conference realignment, I thought it would be a good time to go over all of the teams in their new conferences. And first, starting off with Oregon going to the Big Ten. When Nick Saban announced his retirement, a lot of people's first choices were at the top of the choice with Oregon's head coach Dan Lanning, and for good reason. Dan Lanning has tied to the South, and ever since he got the Oregon job, they've recruited like a Big Ten SEC school, and he's just done nothing but win. And well, that's why I think Oregon has the best chance out of all these new schools going to the Big Ten. Oregon recruits like a Big Ten SEC school, they play like one, and they have the line of scrimmage for one. A lot of people, when they think of Oregon, still think of the Flash, that high-tempo Chip Kelly era, but they're really not that. Well, yes, they still have a fun offense to watch. It's not quite that historical Oregon offense that you think of, and they play more of a grounded type of football. Well, yes, the Flash is still there, and the big plays are still there. They have the line of scrimmage that your old school Oregon teams just did not have, and a lot of that has to do with head coach Dan Lanning. Oregon has done something that we really haven't seen in the transfer portal. They brought in two of the top 5 portal quarterbacks in Dante Moore and Dillon Gabriel. And one of the key parts of that was because Dante Moore was willing to sit, which is not something you hear all too common in this day and age. Dillon Gabriel is going to be the starter this year, and he was really good at Oklahoma. Some of you may remember him at UCF as well. And he's just been nothing but produced in his college career. He chose to transfer after Oklahoma started and told him that they were going to go with freshman quarterback Jackson Arnold, sophomore this season. And it was best for both sides to move on. Dillon Gabriel stabilized Oklahoma's quarterback room for head coach Brett Venables' first 2 seasons. And Dillon Gabriel gets to move on to play at Oregon, play in the Big Ten. And Oklahoma gets to play with their flashy new toy in Jackson Arnold. Dillon Gabriel looked up to Marcus Mariota, which is another little nugget in this. So I expect Dillon Gabriel will produce. We seen Bo Nic go up there and kind of change. Dillon Gabriel, I expect the same results. Oregon did lose a lot of talent, but I don't accept a step back. I honestly could see this team taking a step forward, which is kind of crazy to think about. Back to Dante Moore, one of the reasons that he was willing to transfer and sit was because he went to a terrible situation at UCLA. A lot of people know 5-star, one of the best quarterbacks in his recruiting class, if not the highest ranked, depending on where you looked at. And it was just a bad situation in UCLA. There were rumors of some broken promises. Him and Chip Kelly's relationship really not materializing. So both, evidently, ironic enough, have moved on. And Dante Moore is willing to go somewhere where there was a good culture, where he could sit and learn. Because Dante Moore, he had some flashes last year, but there were a lot of lows. And he was just wanting to go somewhere where he could just sit and learn. And I think Oregon is a good landing spot for him. Another top player that the Oregon Ducks got in the transfer was wide receiver Evan Stewart, star receiver from Texas A&M. Texas A&M had quarterback injuries last year, so they got some really iffy quarterback play at times. But Evan Stewart still flashed, and him in Oregon with Dillon Gabriel is going to light up scoreboards. A lot of people are joking about the California schools having to play in Wisconsin or when they got to make a trip to Penn State in the winter. Oregon, it's not going to matter. They're going to go into the Big Ten like they've been in there since the Big Ten was formed, basically. And a big reason is just Evan Stewart is going to light up defenses. This guy's a playmaker. Put the ball in his hands, and big plays are going to happen. This guy is going to be a highlight machine, and he's going to be a social media darling just because this dude knows, and he's a dog on the football field, but he puts on a show. Get him with a good quarterback like Dillon Gabriel, and these two are going to be a must-watch for this Oregon Ducks football program. Oregon's recruiting is only going to go up, and that's insane to think about. Because 3 years ago, they had a top 15 class. 2 years ago, had a top 10 class. And this past year, had a top 3 class. They were just behind Alabama and Georgia. And that class and the recruiting just continue to go up because Dan Lanning is of that Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, of cloth, of recruit, and being the best at it. And also being in the Big Ten. Yes, all the way up in Oregon can kind of be a little bit of a head scratcher going all the way up there for some players. But in this era of social media and transfer portal, I don't think that's really that big of a deal anymore. And also being in the Big Ten, maybe a kid from Pennsylvania that really didn't have that too much interest in Oregon. Maybe now they do because they know that they will be playing at Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and those surrounding schools. So that's just going to even further amplify Oregon's recruiting. Also, everyone knows they got Phil Knight money. And people joke and say, oh, so do other Nike schools. Not like Oregon. Phil Knight is a direct donor. and he has talked about he wants Oregon to win championships in every sport, and they have not done that in football yet, but they have laid the foundation. And within the next 2 to 3 years, I definitely could see Oregon possibly holding up a college football playoff national championship. With all that being said, what are my predictions for Oregon's first year in the Big Ten? I think it'd be the smoothest transition possibly for any school going to a new conference this season. They're set up for that Big Ten schedule. Their line of scrimmage play set up for it. They had the returning players, even though they did lose a bunch, but they're still returning a lot of high-quality players. They've killed it in the high school recruiting, and they've absolutely killed it in the transfer portal as well. I think Oregon is one of the more underrated fan bases. Autzen Stadium gets loud, and Oregon has really developed a die-hard fan base like you would when you think of your Alabamas, your Auburns, your Ohio States, Michigan, Penn States. Oregon is just right there, and with them going to the Big Ten, I think it's going to put an even more national spotlight on this such great fan base that has just been waiting for a national championship. Yes, they have gotten there, but they not have won it, and I don't think they're going to have to wait that much longer. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications, and let me know down in the comments, what do you think Oregon's first year in the Big Ten looks like, and do you think that they win a national championship within the next 5 seasons?